Well,
Good.
for everyone that's joining us, thank you for making the time to come and join. Argo and Skycom are pleased to be able to host this third webinar of three for the first quarter. So we're wrapping it up on the last day of first quarter. So I think we've got our timing right in there, and we're pleased to be able to bring some perspective, especially with great panels that we've had, and this one where we've got a terrific group, and we'll introduce everybody in just a moment. But really taking a look at our core themes, which is how do we augment and improve patient experience in the healthcare sector, and particularly through a lens of looking at the challenges of last year, and then considering what were some of the learnings that came out of those challenges last year, and the operation of customer experience, people, processes, technology. How did all that play in? And then taking a look at taking some of those learnings and applying them into 2021. What are some of those strategic pieces that have come along the way? And then as we look at the purpose of this session versus the others, we spent some time on technology in the past. We spent some time on process improvement and some of the pains that we're going through. This one we're going to look at from some of the things that have really bubbled forward out of those prior two sessions, which is really kind of a theme of you don't have to go it alone. That there are other great resources out there, from consultants to partners in technology to partners in resources, outsourced resources, et cetera, that can come alongside and be able to help an organization with broader perspective, with ways of looking at flexing people resources more effectively, perhaps more cost effectively, being able to look at process improvement, consultation or other teams that you're utilizing to be able to get there. And then certainly from enhancing the technology stack in order to be able to meet things, whether it's the challenge of a pandemic, business continuity, or simply meeting the omni-channel needs that are emerging, especially in healthcare these days, and being able to meet patients when, where, why, and how they want to be met. So as we go forward with today, we've got a great group. I'd like to introduce Mike Puccinelli. Mike is the co-founder and CEO of SingleCom. SingleCom is one of the powerful new platforms that's come along from ACD, cloud-based telephony, omni-channel capabilities, and has some specialization now that we're adapting directly in the healthcare space. So, Mike, glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Yep. Harrison Lamans. Harrison is the COO of Pacific Medical Data Solutions, which is a division of LifePoint. And Harrison is joining us now for a second time as well, and brings some wisdom from a strong provider perspective. And how do you care for those patients? How do you care for the needs of a national hospital system in the course of the rev cycle management in the back office, but also that patient engagement and emerging demands that are coming out in the healthcare space. So Harrison, good to have you with us as well.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Fred Stacy, and Fred leads the CX Cloud Technology team for outsourced consultants. And Fred, I know that you've got deep experience, of course, from the technology space of how to be able to adapt and help organizations adapt much more nimbly. How to utilize platforms, whether it's something that is hosted or something that they're looking to bring on internally into their own system. So being able to bring that wisdom from a technology perspective. So good to have you with us, Fred.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Louis Nico is president of Skycom Healthcare, and Louis has deep chops going back in the healthcare space, all the way back to Accenture days of leading a lot of national global initiatives around healthcare. Louis, you've seen some of the evolution taking place within the industry over the course of the years.
Yes.
And some of the wisdom now from an outsourced partner as well.
Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely. And then Argo's own Brandon Badin, who heads our IT and our CISO efforts. And Brandon always gives us some of that good thought process in the course of how we get there from a platform. He and his team go make it happen. And so he knows the ins and outs of the realities of this as well. And he brings the nice perspective of a Marine that just goes and gets it done. So Brandon, we're glad to have you with us as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Good. Well, team, we'll jump right into it, and I think that first question is really coming back to how prepared were you, or other organizations that you may have been working with for the business challenges of 2020. What are one or two things that you wish you had in place during that time, or that you observed in the course of? So this is that take a look in arrears, and if we can, Mike, if we can start with you and kind of look at some things from the course of either SingleCom itself or some of the clientele that you've supported. What were a couple of things that you saw in the course of those business challenges?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Well, to start, we're 100% cloud-based contact center solution. And as you guys know, at Argo, we were uniquely positioned to be extremely productive during that time that we all went through last year, actually about a year ago at this time. So all of our clients reported no issues transitioning from literally overnight from let's work in the center to send everybody home. Not only were we able to support our clients and get them home, because literally all you need is a Chrome browser and a decent is a key word there, internet connection, and you had the exact same experience that you would have had in the physical facility at home, virtually, like just literally logging in. So we were able not only to help our clients get up and running quickly at home, but most of our clients, including Argo, experienced an uptick in business, and they were able to access some of our guided interaction tools to bring on new agents that had never even stepped foot into a physical facility to be trained. And we think that, coupled with the having everything up in the cloud, helped us really support our current clients. The one challenge that we had, quite honestly, was that with the uptick in business and with our current clients, we weren't able to help as many new partners that we would like to have brought onto the platform, because while all of our partners were very successful in making the migration to home with our help, all the new folks that we were working with were so consumed with the urgency of just getting what they had up and running that they could not wrap their minds around how easy it would be to implement new technology to augment some of the challenges they were having with existing tech. And we experienced that for quite some time, almost all the way through the end of 2020, where it was very difficult to get to the right people within an IT department at new organizations to show them just how easy it could be. So that was really the eye opener for us on both fronts. But all of our clients, as I mentioned, reported extreme success getting people back home. Now what we're seeing, Mike, is that everybody's so comfortable with not only the quality and the in-center experience that's now available at home, but that the security that we have around the platform is just as robust, and people are super comfortable letting their folks continue to work from home. So we see more demand for at-home agents going forward, and less demand for people going back into the centers.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mike. I think that's going to be something that may be echoed, as we go across. Is there going back to the old model of doing things in the same capacity, or are we looking at a different brave new world here, right? As we go forward. I'd like to invite Harrison, if you don't mind, and then Fred will get to you, Lewis and Brandon. But Harrison, from your perspective as an operator, especially looking at patient engagement and supporting a national hospital system, maybe some thoughts that you have looking in arrears at 2020.
Yeah. So our offices in Denver and Kentucky were both 100% remote, prior to the pandemic hitting. So we were actually pretty fortunate to have an IT plan ready and in place that enabled us to pretty quickly, almost overnight, move our entire workforce from in-office to work from home. There were certainly some bumps along the road there related to equipment, hardware, internet access, secure connections, those types of things. But it enabled us to quickly keep services up and running just in a completely different environment. What I would say is that what we hadn't fully vetted out as best as we could have was, did all of our vendor partners have the same plan in place? And did we have assurances from them that they would also be able to quickly move from an in-office to a remote standpoint? Some made that move without any type of issue. Some we did have some issues with, and we had to look at some other partners to maybe pick up some of the slack, where maybe one vendor was struggling with moving to remote quickly. So looking back, we should have had a better disaster recovery plan in place in relation to our outsourced functions that, were not under our direct control. We do have that in place now as a result of 2020. So I believe moving forward, we're in a much better position than we were. Internally, we had never offered remote-based positions in the past. So we had a learning curve for our team on how to effectively manage a remote-based workforce. What tools could we put in place? What touch points do we need to put in place? We had a continued commitment to LifePoint to continue to grow last year and onboard new work. So we had to start hiring and onboarding new staff in a remote environment, which was brand new to us. We also had to maintain the culture that we've worked so hard to create in a remote-based world. And that was a new thing for us as well, is how do we work on this culture that we've been building over the last 2 to 3 years, but not have that fall apart when we've moved everything to remote-based. So I'd say, Mike, those are my main observations.
No, those are great points, and pretty broad spectrum. Everything from a business continuity plan on through to even where partners ready. Let alone own internal resources, et cetera. So great perspectives, Harrison. Thanks. Yeah, Fred, would you like to jump in and comment a little bit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we were pretty well remote for the most part, operations and people scattered throughout the U.S. So, I mean, personally, as an organization, we didn't have much of a problem transitioning. What I really wish I could have done a better job with my clients is really, driving home the need for the disaster recovery. I mean, nobody really had pandemic planning in their disaster recovery plans, but we should have been better at geo redundancies, infrastructure, technology, the people and the processes where we could have adapted faster. I look back, my clients made all kinds of various decisions, from just putting a Band-Aid on it, knowing that they're going to have to go back and revisit it to fix it later, to, fully deploying cloud solutions without any build out, without really any thought other than we just need to get people up and running. And then, I did really, a lot of decisions were made over the last year, especially over the last 6 months, to deploy self-service technology, thinking that it would somehow magically solve all the world's problems. And people did crazy things like saying that we're going to deflect 100% of our patient traffic, to bots. And I'm a big advocate of AI. I've been operating and playing around with it for over 15 years. And I guarantee you that nobody in their right mind, considering the patient or customer experience or any kind of experience, should be considering a thought of deflecting 100%. It's just not realistic. So I think a lot of clients made a lot of bad decisions and they're paying for it now. In looking back, I wish I could have done a better job, a stronger job of preparing my clients for what was probably inevitable, according to Bill Gates. That's what I'd say. There's a ton more learned, but those are the big points. I think we could have been better prepared, and we could have made better decisions throughout the last year too. It's just hopefully we know what's going, what we need to do moving forward.
Yeah, Fred, great comments. I think building on Harrison's, Lewis. Coming up next, and Mike, across this team, and I'll introduce Terry Peltis, who's just joined us momentarily. But across this team, I think we've all had that conversation around, who foresaw a pandemic, right? And so, Harrison, I think you'd resonate well. It's not about the pandemic; it's about having a strong business continuity plan, regardless of incident. So that we've got right plans that are there and ready to go. So being able to adapt to that, Fred, I think you identified, and it called out for all of us, that ability to recognize where are the gaps, or how much dust did we have to blow off that business continuity plan, and how fresh was it, and have we kept things up to date, right? So great commentary. Lewis, would you like to go next?
Sure, Mike. So Skycom has been pretty much an in-house operation though for the last 12 to 13 years. So we, we're bricks and mortar, right? And we've been that way since day one. And so, when the pandemic occurred, we had to quickly switch to a work from home environment. And, our disaster recovery plan did not have information about what do we do in the case of a pandemic, right? What do we do when there's a biochemical issue? And so we had to quickly move. And thankfully, we have a team of folks within our IT department that was able to get everybody working from home and be able to do the security checks and the compliance checks to make sure that we were able to serve our clients basically on a drop of a dime. So, kudos to my team there. There were some bumps along the road, okay, but thankfully we were able to get everybody, working from home, and also the training that went along with that, right? So because there's constant training that that comes up, and so how do we train folks that are now working from home? What does that training look like? No longer can we use our training facility that we have here at Skycom, which is very nice, which we use a lot. That can hold probably anywhere between 60 to 75 agents. How do you do the training now when people are working from home? How do you engage each of the agents? How do you test to make sure that they're doing the right steps, and know the navigation tools, and know how to basically work with clients from a work from home environment. So that was a big struggle for us, but thankfully we haven't lost anyone. We've had bumps along the road, of course, but everyone is still with us that was with us prior to the pandemic. So.
Yeah, those you pointed out, one of those simple areas that call out the trifecta across people, process, and technology, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, how do you train? How do you train people if you've been in center only, right? Right. And you can have one of the better LMSs that's out there, so you can solve for it in a technology capacity. But if you haven't had that in your tech stack yet, what do you do in this scenario? So something to consider there. Secondarily is process. Well, shoot, we've always trained in person. We've always been able to get those people raising their hands when they've got questions. Sure. Right? Do we have not only the people ready to be trained in a remote capacity? Do we have trainers that have the skill sets for that nuance that it really does take to be able to train or quality manage or all of those other things that roll out that remote agent requires, right? To really gain those efficiencies.
Yeah.
And so, it's that people, process, technology. Are we hiring the right people? How many of our own people that were internal were able to make that jump? Were their home operations, was it in the right capacity to still be compliant? Were they able to work from home, just given the fact that other family, et cetera, may have been there? So good points all the way around.
Good.
Brandon, I'm gonna ask you if you don't mind holding, and we'll invite Terry to jump in. Terry, sorry about any complications getting in on the platform, but we love the fact that we've got you here. Terry Peltis, for those that didn't meet Terry in one of our prior sessions, is CEO of Panorama Orthopedics, one of the large regional orthopedics and the finest one you can find in the Rocky Mountain region. For a team of doctors and an outstanding operational team. So Terry, we're glad to have you with us. Good. I think we got you on mute, Terry. Oh. Can you guys hear Terry? I apologize, I cannot.
No, I cannot hear Terry.
I can't hear Terry.
Good. Hey, Terry, what we'll do is we'll invite Brandon to speak, but go ahead and see if you can get that corrected. Tricia, if there's any help that we can offer Terry as well, that would be ideal.
Of course.
Good. Yeah. Brandon, why don't we do this is while we're working on Terry's mute, is if you might be able to summarize, a couple of things that we've seen looking across clients, looking across our own operations. What were a couple of the learnings that you saw, particularly as from InfoSec on through to technology, particularly that you really witnessed there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everybody obviously touched on it and summed it up particularly well across the vast arrays of issues that arose come 2021 or 2020 rather, heading into 2021 as we had dealt with the pandemic. I think in particular, from an Argo perspective, we were very lucky in several areas to be able to better assist some clients in walking through and really, keeping their business running and servicing their patients, clients and customers. In the respect, Fred was mentioning, better, geographical locations. Argo had two brick and mortar centers completely separated throughout the U.S., along with a subset of over 100 at-home agents. Lewis was talking about how do we, go from always training in center to at homes. And we had been doing remote trainings with our agents as we were bringing on more and more at homes, particularly because, Argo planned for bad things to happen. We were already in the cloud working with Mike. SingleCom as our backbone is absolutely huge. As we talk about processes, we were able to come alongside, clients that we already had existing, along with new ones, particularly some of our clients within the healthcare space, because of the processes that we were able to apply to our agents with our scripting engine and our workflow process engine. The way that it connects, it can pull in information, work with the IVRs, duplicate information and pass it on to the agents, charge credit cards, the way that it can pull and connect via API into, the electronic health records managements and all sorts of things, your Athenas, et cetera, do scheduling. So for us, the difficult part, I would say, is how do we deal with scaling, right? How do we deal with moving those small areas of pockets of the at home and move it very quickly and scale it up very large? Again, we were kind of lucky in the fact that we had the partners that we had. And I think that was one of the big learnings that a lot of people took away from 2020 is don't do it on your own. If you have a niche that you're very good at, find good partners that can align to your vision and are willing to work with you, and come alongside your clients and give them the best offering in technology that you can, right? I think we've mentioned it a couple different times. We've talked about people, we've talked about process, we've talked about technology. All three of them mesh very, very, very well together. That bridge being the process. That process bridges your technology and your people, and it's how do you do it? So I think coming out of 2020 and heading into 2021, it's really where we're going to be the best in continuing to grow these partnerships that we all have, and really kind of pushing forward to be able to provide our clients with the best solutions that we can.
Great. Now, thanks, Brandon. Sure appreciate it.
Michael, can you hear me?
We can. Hey, success.
Thank you.
Do we have you in a?
Post that?
Are you joining and proving out the mobile capabilities?
Yeah, that's right. I'm just walking around the office here. Can you shut that one down, please? Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you. I had a team of experts
appreciate
here.
you've proven that you can manage a webinar from anywhere.
Yeah. So I am sorry I'm late. I was saying you would think after 1,211 of these that I'd be a little more adept at this by now, but thanks for your tolerance with me, and glad that I'm here.
We're glad to have you as well, Terry. And we know you probably did the past 600 or 700 of them on a different platform other than the one we're on right now. So
That's right. That's right.
Being able to change the nuances of each different platform each time.
Yeah. So I can jump in wherever you like. I don't know if you're still on, question number one, or what can I help you with?
We are. It's that look in arrears, Terry. And as we'd framed, we've had a chance to talk a little bit about technology in past webinar, a little bit about process management past webinar, but the themes still remain the same as we come back through. What were some of the learnings in this one now that we're looking at a focus on? Don't go it alone. There's a lot of good partners out there that can align, as Brandon was saying, to your vision and really bring some outside perspective. And as you look in arrears at 2020, what were some of the things that were some of those lessons that you may have picked up, from
sure.
that point?
As you noted, too, we are Panorama Orthopedics, but I'm actually the CEO of the holding company. It's called PMG LLP, and we are a very broad, diversified healthcare services company. We have 550 to 600 employees, and while we are a really great orthopedic practice, we do a lot of other things, including joint venture ownership of an orthopedic hospital. Looking back at 2020, and I was only the CEO of Panorama for maybe 6 months when the pandemic hit. And, the question is here, what one or two things do you wish you had in place? One is, the ability to prophesy would have been great, to just be able to look into the future and predict this. But, 2020 was really a classic black swan event. It was one of those things where it was completely unpredictable. I know all of us look back and wish that we would have been better. We would have known more. We could have prophesied a bit more clearly about what the expectation would be. But every aspect of our business was affected by the pandemic. Literally every aspect of our business, every aspect of our business model. I, like many on the call here, I've been in business now maybe 30 years, an executive for 15. I've never gone through an exogenous shock that has literally impacted every aspect of the business. And so in looking back, it's, in my perspective for us, it wasn't about our technology. It wasn't about our redundancy. It wasn't about all those things, because yes, we could have done each one of those better. But this was a response of people. This was a response of people, experience, decisions, mistakes, working fast with very little understanding or data, looking into a black hole, not knowing how low the bottom, how deep the hole was, how low the bottom was, or how long this thing was going to last. And so, the one or two things that I wish we had in place, sure, it would have been nicer to have had, a bit more capital. But when this first occurred, we made the decision to immediately pull down all of our credit lines. We built up as much cash as we possibly could. We pulled in every reserve that we had, again, not knowing how long this was going to last or what we were going to have to work through. And then, the other thing would have been, yes, it would have been great to have, a plan to get people working from home or whatever. But again, because of the really black swan nature of this event, it couldn't have been anticipated. So what I'm the most proud of is the ability to bring smart people together and look at this, completely unpredictable and an unknown event, and begin making these short-term decisions, literally day-to-day decisions. How do we get through today and set ourselves up for tomorrow? So it was really a people response, and we began flat-footed, and then we quickly adjusted to the need of being very agile and adept. And we got a lot of things wrong, but we kept pushing and we kept trying, and we actually came through this. I hate to say anything was an improvement because of this terrible event that occurred, but we're a better business because of it. We're a better team. We're much smarter, and I think we're prepared for some eventualities that we would never have been considered or been prepared for in the past.
No, it's great, Terry. Thank you for the transparency of that. Having had an opportunity, to witness, the great team that you've got, around you there at Panorama, but, recognizing that, it's as much value learning from the mistakes, as much value working a methodology when these things come up, though, as well, and being able to bring together, every voice, that's got some insight and being able to take some action. And sometimes those things work. Sometimes those things are a learning, process, but becoming a better organization because of it, I think is probably one of those highlights that you just brought forward, that all of us, can and should be able to recognize. So thanks for the contribution.
Sure.
As we kind of pivot now from looking in arrears to taking some of those learnings, some of those best practices, going forward. Maybe we'll even start backwards, Terry, since you're on a roll. Is be able to pivot, now as you go into 2021, where are some of those learnings, both from within, your own team, and how you're utilizing whether it's technology partners, resource partners, outsourced components, consultants, et cetera. Where are you bringing that, kind of that vision together for 2021, and what might that look like?
Well, as you can imagine, and I'm sure many of the people on the webinar here are completely reimagining our business. We're rethinking from the ground up because one of the benefits that came out of this was the recognition that we were behind. We were behind on what's possible, and we are now motivated to recreate ourselves to be, to achieve our own full potential as a business, and that means really being able to deliver the care again, across a all those folks are across a broad geography and also demographic, and so I've always been a proponent of looking for outside help. I know that I'm certainly not the smartest person in the room, and it's impossible for one company, unless you're Cisco or you have unlimited resources, Apple, to be able to bring together and own on your own the resources that are required to achieve your full potential. The definition of entrepreneurship really is being able to bring together resources that you don't own, but you can have access to build a company or an organization that can achieve much more than you could do on your own. And so by bringing together outside experts that we could never afford to hire on our own, or and bring together skills and experience that none of us have. And Argo is a good example of that. And Michael, that I've appreciated so much what Argo has brought to Panorama, and you've made us better. And I know there's a question on here, what do you look for when sourcing these resources? And and this is sincere. This isn't a commercial for Argo. This is, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in you and your team. It is looking for the partners that have that deep multidisciplinary experience. It's somebody that can talk not only customer experience and patient experience, but finance and strategy and operations and all those things together, because that's the view of the world that you need in solving these big generalized problems, or achieving the ultimate goal for your company and for your customers. The other couple of notes that I made are, the ability, or the partner capability to be creative. The future is not always foretold by the prophet, but sometimes the heretic. And you need people who are willing to look at the orthodoxies that exist within our industries and really blow them up. And the other saying that's often used is, sometimes it's not about evolution but revolution, and all of those things are true here today, because our deficiencies have been laid bare by this pandemic, and but also the opportunities are all around us and before us. And so being able to bring in partners who can, in every one of those areas, help us get better, but also can be integrated in their approach to this. And Argo has been a perfect partner for us in that regard, and I appreciate all the work that you've done for us.
Now, thanks for the comment, Terry. I think being able to look across so much of it from an Argo perspective, we're thankful to be able to come alongside. But certainly you and your team have painted a great vision and given us something to align to. And it's our job to be that flexible partner.
Yep. And I'll add one more quick thing. I know other people need to get in here too, is that the other suggestion that I would make, and this came from one of my business school professors who was always focused on the idea of you need to be able to do both. You need to be able to explore and exploit. And those two things are very difficult to do at one time. You need to be able to look at the horizon and ask, what if, what's possible, while you're trying to exploit, not in a bad way, but exploit the opportunities that are right before you. And sometimes it means that you have to make a material or a tectonic shift to get from the organization that you are today to where you need to be in the future. And that's why it's difficult to be able to do that. Most of us are focused on our operations today, and it's hard for us to make that that monumental shift to something different, a different business model, a different customer demographic, whatever that thing is. But that's why it's important to bring in good outside partners who can not only help you develop that vision and that plan on making the shift, but can also push you along when you need that extra little effort behind you to get you to understand where you need to go to be successful in the future.
No, great comment, Terry. I like the explore and exploit though. It's a difficult bridge, but an important one to be able to incorporate into the infrastructure, of the team and the thought process. So good. I think while we're working through, the good wisdom of providers, Harrison, if you don't mind, we'll go to you next. Then we'll invite Fred, Mike, Lewis, and Brandon, from technology and operations partnerships from there. So Harrison, if you're good, we'll go ahead and pivot to you.
Yeah, so as we think about kind of what our focus areas for 2021 are related to kind of the patient experience, patient engagement world, we've actually decided to expand our inbound customer call center support team to both a Skycom partnership and also another partner under the Argo umbrella, which is giving us additional capacity to serve our patients across a shared platform, which is Mike's platform and SingleCom here, which the integration there is just amazing, by the way, of being able to have two different companies completely on opposite sides of the world, working in the same system, very little, setup needed. It's just a great functionality to have at our fingertips. So we're very appreciative of that. So we're working actively, like Fred mentioned. We're not going down the route of automating 100% of a patient phone call, because that's never going to happen. But I have challenged my team to look at what aspects of a normal patient inbound phone call are fairly repetitive, maybe would be even more beneficial for the patient to try to automate what we can if they choose to go through an automated route versus talking to one of our agents. So we're looking at automating things like just checking a patient balance. If they just want to make a quick payment with their credit card, how can we automate that given the tools that we have at our fingertips today to better provide options for our patients? And then from a process standpoint and a quality control standpoint, Mike, we've actually started writing into our contractual agreements with our vendors certain KPIs and metrics that we value as important from a customer service standpoint, a quality standpoint, and a service level agreement standpoint to ensure that we're holding ourselves accountable, but also holding our partners accountable to high quality service for our patients.
Yeah, great comments all the way around, Harrison. I think from finding the right tool sets that offer that degree of being able to implement almost seamlessly in the course of whether it's service in US, nearshore, offshore, and yet being on that same compliant platform all the way around from a HIPAA perspective. From it appears no different from within your own operations, or especially to your own customer patient set. It's critical to be able to do that, but the technology is there today, and being able to implement and then draw together an operation that reflects that well, and then being able to work with those partners, as you mentioned, to look at what are those critical details that really drive the business. And that's where the contract should be supported. We could all have a list of 29 items, and I've had contracts like that of KPIs, yet there's going to be a critical 3 or 4 that really impact the business, and being able to look at those flexibly, be able to look at what's happening in the marketplace, be able to operate together and flexibly in the course of that. I think you nailed it. It's what are those critical few that we want to center around that really move the ball for what the vision is for the business right now and what's important to our patient experience. So good, thank you. Fred, if we can, we'll go to you and take a good technology snapshot as well, and other things you might be able to bring in.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I think 2021, the projects that I'm working on right now, and what I believe going forward is all the forbearance of the regulations to the move at home. We all had to do it. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew PCI wasn't actually being followed. Everybody knew that HIPAA, and this goes industry wide. So no one feel like if you weren't ready, or you weren't prepared, or you didn't have the tools, none of us were. I mean, the reality was everybody was forgiving. Everybody let a lot of stuff slide that they're not going to moving forward. And the reality is, the infrastructure pieces and the technology. Yes, I'm a technologist, but I ran centers first. And understanding that the people, processes, and technology are all critical. I think the big things that I'm seeing right now are virtualization, PCI avoidance technology as opposed to compliance technology. Everybody wants to talk about, I'm PCI compliant level 1. Yeah, you were last year when you did your cert in-house. What about this year? Have you done your certification process with your at-home agents? The answer is no. And same thing goes for HIPAA. HIPAA is even more complex because my partners that are involved in healthcare, some of them have chosen not to allow the outsourcers or their internal people to go to home because it's really hard to secure all the patient information in an actual live patient conversation at home. So the reality is you can't stop a person from, having a recorder in the or in the room and capturing that information. So all that forbearance is going to go away. People are going to start getting strict. It's going to require a lockdown of the desktop. It's going to require camera technology. A lot of people are fighting with the conflict of where does invasion of privacy come in with an agent if I'm putting my agent on camera. But at the same time, as first party or as outsourcers, we all have to validate and verify that it's the right person on the phone. That has been trained, that has all the right tools. Because I've heard of instances of people people actually letting kids, other individuals work their job while they go off and they work another job. So the people that are untrained are actually taking the phone calls. So there's all kinds of nuances that we never thought of. And then the people side, I've always believed this was true when we were brick and mortar as much as it is today, but even more so, that if you show me a well-performing contact center and I'll show you a great mid-level leadership, the supervisors, the managers, the tools that they need, the training that they need. I'm not just talking about LMS. I mean, trust me, I love LMS and gamification and all kinds of new toys to get people engaged. But if you don't teach your leaders and your up and coming leaders how to actually manage and motivate and work with the at-home agents, agent engagement has already shown a big sign in our industry of dipping, and it's just going to get worse. We have the complexities in the U.S. market of raising minimum wages. I mean, there's all these nuances that are going on that are going to significantly change our business moving forward. And I think it's having great partners that get to see this from every aspect, not just technology, not just people or process, but the whole picture and working through it as a team, because none of us, I think Terry said it, none of us have all the answers. And that's the reality. 26 years in contact centers, I learn something new every day. For whether it's clients, partners, or vendors, I'm constantly learning, and that's what we have to do. There's no way you can do this alone. That's for sure.
Yeah, Fred, great call outs, especially on the compliance, components. What were the realities for so many organizations, throughout the course of this past year, right? And warts and all, that's what a lot of organizations had to get through. We've got fantastic folks that I know that are listening in on an audience perspective today that wrestled with much of the same, right? Some of whom had some of the greatest ideas out there as well. Other ones are still looking for that, and so some of the wisdom of this panel really shines through, but also recognizing so many of the organizations and all of us dealt with some aspect of that along the way, whether we were ready for it or not ready for it, we had to deal with it. So, thanks for the call outs and that don't go it alone, because there is so much, out there. We don't have all the answers individually, but there's lots of good resources there to pull from.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, right on. Mike, from your perspective.
Sure, yeah. So at SingleCom, as you know, we focus on making every consumer engagement as effective as it possibly can be. In this case, it would be patience. For 2021, we don't look at ourselves as solving every problem as far as going it alone goes, Mike. We're very focused on working with partners. And as you guys know, we do a very good job of having open architecture that we can integrate. But what we try to focus on and what we're committed to for the rest of this year is being the great facilitator. And our goal is to continue to refine our guided interactions, if you will, to be able to make a bot experience as effective as it can be, leading all the way up to a live agent experience. And by the time you get there, what our goal is for this year is to make that experience, the only experience you have to resolve whatever issue you're getting, and try to eliminate the let me transfer you to this department, let me transfer you to that department. So with our tooling this year, we're uniquely focused on getting all of the right information across all the different forms of communication, whether that's email, chat, SMS, fax, etc. Previous live agent experiences, pulling all that information in, and then providing a nice, clean, organized desktop and presenting the information to the agent and guiding them through to completion with the patient. So much so that if it's in an area that they're not normally familiar with, let's say it's somebody that's in the scheduling department and this is a billing question, we want to work with our partners to be able to provide access to that in a secure way, like we've done with everything else, so that agent can be an expert for that one piece of information that they have to deliver, to try to eliminate that frustration that everybody has experienced, especially if you're a patient. Oh, hold on, let me put you on hold. Let me try to get you to that department. Then you get transferred over to another department and another department, another department. And ultimately, throughout the process, you're just getting more and more frustrated. And with all the data that's out there and all the information and all the previous contact information that we have access to, we should, as technologists, be able to deliver that experience in a much more effective way, especially in a live agent experience. So that's really what we're focused on at SingleCom.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. I like the great facilitator focus for this year as well. I think for the hub and center that you sit at from a platform perspective, you know, what a great outlook to have, and where can you look at being able to enable things, you know, particularly in the healthcare space, you know, that's going to be critical, you know, to a lot of the folks that are on the panel and on the line with us today. So thanks for that. Louis, as a service provider, from your perspective as well, what are a couple of the 2021 focus points that you see from a SkyCom perspective? Oh, we got you on mute.
Yeah, Mike, we had several partners, though, that we basically created a relationship with just on a basic handshake, you know, and where we didn't have a contract in place, so to speak, which we felt that, you know, being able to continue doing the work, it really wasn't necessary to spend so much time on focusing on the contract. Let's just get the work into place and let's start, you know, servicing the clients. We realized in 2021 who we really needed to partner with and sign those contracts. And so what we did was, you know, get those into place. And then the next thing was to understand really what we're good at and what we're not good at. And to have those conversations with our partners to say, here's what we want, or here's what our clients need. How can you help us get there? And so that's what we saw, you know, this year. Those are basically the two main points for us. For years, the discussion was, well, we can build that, we can do that ourselves, we can do all these things ourselves. I've always been a strong believer in partnerships, and you know, my team finally realized this year that there's no way in heck we can do this thing alone, and we needed to sort of solidify the contracts, or at least the arrangements that we have with our partners, and then work with them. And really truly understand, as I said before, what are we not good at, or what things don't we want to do that we want our partners to help us create and build. So that was really good for us, and it accelerated kind of the conversation with our clients as well. We're now getting into things that you know, we're having talks and conversations on things that we probably wouldn't have had before because of the partnerships that we have, right? And so just doing more, accelerating, you know, being able to provide more solutions and doing more things for our clients.
Great. No, good points right there, Louis. Thanks for the contribution. Brandon, I think, you know, on that same note, you know, as a service provider, but bringing together a lot of those essentials across people, process, technology, you know, on behalf of our clients, you know, a couple of the key things that you're really seeing in 2021 that we're focused on.
So coming in and just kind of rounding everything up, I'm gonna have to steal a little bit from everybody's thunder here. Particularly, first off, I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Fred's a little bit, talking about the compliancies. It is a big one. So to Fred's point, right? People want to talk about, well, you were PCI compliant, and Fred says, well, that was last year. This is very true. Coming into 2021, it's a very, very different situation now. People are not going to be that lenient. One of the things that we're focusing on, is those compliancies and working, with our providers, obviously, Mike right here with us, is being able to take some of those things away, right? When we move in, it's the, excuse me, taking away the charging of the credit card away from the agent, right? It's transferring into an IVR, right? It's the agent's not touching it. They're not hearing it. That's being done. The API's got its call out. We're getting back the transaction ID and we're moving forward, reconnecting the customer with the agent. And it's just completely removing that to keep that compliancy there and where it needs to be. We're looking at implementing that across, all of our channels very, very well. I think the other thing that, Argo is going to be very focused on is the business process innovation, working with our clients and customers, right? Where are we going to be able to come alongside our clients with our partnerships that we're working with, to be able to remove the human aspect from it, but still make it very personable and give it the best patient experience, right? You talk with somebody on the phone that's in the office, and rather than, I'm going to be mailing you out the paperwork, it's please check your email or please watch your text message. And you're going to have links that are going to be able to provide you with the information that you need for your upcoming appointment, your upcoming surgery, getting all of that done and immediately placing it into the patient's record file, right? There's no more walking into an office, filling out the paperwork. Streamlining all those processes up front is really where our focus is going to be, continuing to work with those good partnerships, making sure that we're adhering and, following the guidelines with the compliancies as we head into 2021, just to make sure that, we remain one of the best in class, for our clients and patients.
Very good. Thanks, Brendan. Good summary across. And I think grabbing a bit from everyone on the panel. For our audience that's been out there as well, you've probably seen a couple of the poll questions come out so far. And I did want to comment that there's going to be a summary of the poll questions we'll be able to share back out with you. We'll also be summarizing, much of the webinar wisdom that's coming out from here and being able to share that back out with all the participants. We're going to roll into, while we have the remaining 10 minutes, just into how we've been talking about some of the partnerships and what does that look like while we have the good team here, is what are some of the critical few that you look for in a solution partner, and what are some of those critical few criteria? I'll ask everybody to be, kind of pithy on, with a short list of what are your top things, whether it's going to be, the expertise that a particular partner may represent, whether it is a trusted relationship, perhaps prior experience, whether it's reputation or referral, willingness to do a POC and prove out those things, whether it's a cost to serve versus price, an ROI metric. So as you look at all of those things across there, if you've got a few critical, items that you look at when you look at partnerships, that would be terrific. And I'm going to invite Fred and Mike to probably kick us off with this one, if that's okay, and then work back to Harrison, Terry, Lewis, and Brandon.
You want me to go, Mike, or you?
If you would, Fred, please.
All right. So, the number one thing I look for is I try to find something my partners will say no to. And the reason I say that is, if you can't tell, I say things as they are. I am very straightforward. We like partnerships that are transparent. And I like to find partners that know exactly what they do well, and they stay within their wheelhouse. When you get in this world, we don't have a whole lot of time, and we've got to get down to what can you solve? And if you can't solve it, that's okay. I just need to know clearly that you cannot solve that. So when I'm looking at partners, I'm looking for transparency, and I'm looking for them to understand exactly what they do well. With that in mind, I can always find a group of people to solve problems. That's not a problem. It's just getting those partners that do believe in that same philosophy.
No, great point. Thanks for being right on point as well, Fred. Yeah, Mike, from your perspective?
Yeah, so from the tech perspective, our biggest thing is making sure that we have open communication and that the folks that we're working with, whether it's a proprietary in-house solution that they want us to work with, or if it's something that's off the shelf, that the architecture is open and easy to work with. You don't necessarily have to have all the documentation at your fingertips, but if you have the folks that are accessible and able to work with you, you can solve any problems. And that's really, from our perspective, that's the number one thing. As Fred mentioned, you can solve any issues just as long as everybody's honest about what they can or can't do, willing to kind of walk away from certain pieces that they shouldn't touch and not do everything. And if you can get that kind of open, honest relationship from a tech perspective and work together to solve things and be prepared to show everybody everything. A lot of people don't want to show you everything that they have because they're kind of afraid or they have some concerns. And if you can have partners that are open, honest, and competent, then you can solve any problem and do it very efficiently.
No, great points, Mike. Yeah, especially about that transparency and from a technology perspective, really being able to lay things out effectively. Here's what we've got. Here's what we can work with. Here's what we can solve for, and here's where we've got some flexibility, right? So, Harrison, I know you live this as a regular part of your operation in a day-to-day. If you were to highlight your critical few, what would those be?
Yeah, Mike. So I think when we're looking at vendors, obviously their expertise, their performance, their past results is part of that decision making. But like Fred had mentioned, for me, it's really the cultural fit. Is this organization someone that I can trust? They've been open, they've been transparent, they've been honest about what they can't do. And do I see us fitting together culturally well, doing business? Have these interactions been fun? Are they enjoyable? Can we, partner with them long term? Are they nimble? Are they flexible? The cultural fit's really big for us because we do see our partners as long-term partnerships, and it needs to be enjoyable for everyone, but also able to solve problems and get the work done.
Right on. No, thank you. Well stated. Terry, if we were to go to you, I know you usually have a great methodology, but you also balance analytics and getting to action without too much paralysis there. If you were to share, some thoughts about how you approach things as well. Oh, we got you on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I appreciate the insights from everybody here. I always learn from the functional insights from the people, whether we're talking about technology or something. From my perspective as the CEO, I probably look a little more broadly, maybe. First of all, I am looking for that deep multidisciplinary experience. I want to know that you've achieved well beyond what I'm asking you to do right now. I want to know that you actually understand strategy and how everything that we do has to align with that strategy, and maybe even help us improve the strategy as we move through the process. So I don't want it to just be a single threaded focus. I really want to make sure that our partner understands finance and technology and strategy and all the other things that go with that. The ability to be creative, again, because so often when you work with partners, somebody comes in and they have their one trick pony. When all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. But the ability to sit down and really listen and ideate through the art of the possible, and maybe come up with something that nobody has ever thought about or done before. It is true. Consultants come in and they really do infect their clients with the same orthodoxy that exists, established orthodoxy, and we've got to break through from that, because our objective in 2021 is not to tinker around the edges. We are remaking ourselves. We're starting with one location as a demonstration project. We're completely remaking our business to fit the needs of the expectations today. And so we need somebody who can do that with us. But then, to your point, somebody who can look at immediate improvements that we can make today. As you know, I always say, okay, it's 12 o'clock. What can we get done by 12:30 that makes our business better? And how do we explore for those material improvements that we need to make in the future? So somebody that can think in both realms of what do we need to do right today and what can we do in the future to make our business better.
Terrific. No, thanks, Terry. I love the ideation that's been part of your approach to that as well. I certainly appreciate those comments.
And Argo's you played a really important role in that for us.
Well, thank you, Terry. I think you invite that, from everyone that you have working, on behalf of Panorama's goals. So we certainly appreciate that. Louis, if you were getting down to just the minutes here, if you were to throw in a couple of key things that both as a partner, coming in, and for those that you partner with, what would be a top 2 or 3 criteria that you look at?
Top 2 or 3, Mike, would be being able to share in the good and the bad. We do things really well, we do things, and we do other things not so well, right? And not to point fingers, but to see how we can create a relationship that is a win-win for both parties. That's what's really important for me. This is not about us. We've always said that what's more important is not our bottom line, but your bottom line. And I share that with not only our clients, but with our partners as well. So that's what's really important for me.
Now, nice and concise, Louis, and a strong value statement right there.
Yep.
Yeah, Brandon, if you were to summarize a little bit of what you heard and some of the things that as you evaluate looking at partners, what would be a couple of those quick items?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody's kind of, put it a little bit in the box already, right? Obviously, your security, your certifications, your compliances, all those are a given, right? You're going to be asking for those up front because you're not going to want to work with somebody that doesn't already have those. Secondarily to that, it's really making sure that your visions are aligned. That you're not going to come in and I think Terry said it best, right? Just infect your everyday box solution, because not everybody fits in a box. You have to be able to work together, to listen to what the client has and come in and say, we can do this, right? Take a look at it and say, I can immediately do this better, but let's learn your organization and what's going to work for you. And then put together that solution in the vein of a joint venture and a partnership to make sure that everybody comes out of it better. If you're not aligned that way and you don't have the proper vision, then it's just a partnership that's not going to work.
Yeah, nicely summarized. Thanks, Brandon. Well, for our audience, I know that we're up on 1 minute over, and we certainly appreciate everybody participating with us. We've got Tricia DeFosi is going to be summarizing a lot of our webinar components here. There is an Amazon card that was offered out as well, and the drawing will be held and shared back out with everyone in the course of. And thank you again for the participation. We had a nice, strong showing today, and we want to thank our panel, Terry, Harrison, Mike, Fred, Louis, Brandon. We really appreciate your contributions here. We hope you had a little bit of fun sharing your good wisdom as well.
Good. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice to
All right,
see everybody.
thanks,
Thank
for
you.
joining us.